We'll do the ninth mimer in Mamori Mulukotim Mechele Gimel. This is the mimer Vikibela Yehudim Eis Asher Chulu, which is marked as Purim Tovshin Yudalev. This is a little bit different because this is a mimer that the Rebbe started to write down. They copied this letter from the actual handwriting of the Rebbe. He started to mark it down by himself, but he had not concluded the marking down. And then later on, the Maimer was completely said on that Purim in Tavshin Yud Aleph, and it was later on looked over by the Rebbe. And this is then going to be the next Maimer. This is just the brief handwritten points that the Rebbe brought for the Maimer. This is similar to also some of the other, we had this before, that the Rebbe started. This is in Tafshin Yud Aleph, shortly after the Rebbe was Mekabel the Nesias, that the Rebbe started marking down the Maimer that he was going to talk, and then the Rebbe gave the Maimer. So let's look inside. Cited the Shmaya Purim Tafshin Yud Aleph. וקבל היהודים eis asher chulu. So the pasuk in the Megillah says that the Yidden accepted upon themselves that which they begun. So the beginning took place during Matan Torah, and at the time of Mordechai and Esther in Shushan Abiro, the Yidden at that point they accepted that what they began. So Maksha Rebbe, so the Rebbe, that's referring to the Friedrich Rebbe, asked the Nifla Hadover Chulu. This is something very surprising. Because he says that when you consider the fact that the Yidden's condition, the way they were at that time of Mordechai and Esther, Ubizman Hagolus, that it was the time of exile. So time of exile, generally speaking, is a lower time than the time that was by Matan Torah. Ubefrat, and more specifically, that time within exile itself, Zman Homon Shahoisa Gezeda, the time of Homon in which the decree took place, that was even a chulu, even a worse time than just regular golus. It was a low, one of the lowest of the levels. So how could it be? This is surprising. And it's precisely then that they sustained that which they've accepted in the past. How could we say that? So the previous Rebbe answers in the Maimer, that then, by the time of Mordechai and Esther, by the time of the Gzeira Haman, the Yidden stood with self-sacrifice for the entire year. So, in order for the Yidden to receive the Torah, that which they began, it was required Mesiras Nefesh. So the question is, Loma nitzrach davke la'avoda b'mesiras nefesh. Why is it needed specifically? The service should be with self-sacrifice. Kidei lekayim es asher hachelu kvar, in order to sustain that which they already begun, which is the other pasuk, kimu v'kiblu, as the Gemara says, kimu mashekiblu kvar. So why is it necessary for the avodah with self-sacrifice in order to sustain that which they have begun? Why is that a necessary prerequisite? Yesh lahagdim biyur inyan es asher heichelu. So we need to first introduce the idea of that which they began, which is shekoya alzman matan Torah. This refers to the time of Matan Torah. That's when the Yidden began. So what was the novelty in Matan Torah? What was special that took place? Matan Torah hoyo kiyudua nisinas haTorah mitzvahs begashmius dafke. It was the fact that Torah mitzvahs were given specifically physically. So while the Torah mitzvahs could have been performed even before Matan Torah, but over there they weren't performed, weren't in the physical world, in the physical mitzvahs. But Matan Torah brought down the Torah mitzvahs in physicality. And that is, why is that in physical? Referencing the Medrash, which says that there was a decree before Matan Torah that the people of Rome should not descend to the other country. So we had the Shemaim LaHashem, that was for Hashem. That was the Elyonim. And then we have Ba'aretz, Nasan Livnei Odom, that is the human, that's the physical. There was a partition, there was a separation between the Elyonim and the Tachtonim. So in order to negate and take away the decree of Neirem LeYardov, that separation between the Gashmis and the Ruchnis, Hashem said, Ani Amaschel, Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai, Vel Moshe Omer Hashem alei, the Eibishter came down, the Yenim came down to the Tachtonim, and then also Moshe Omer alei, that the Tachtonim should go up to the Elyonim. So the Torah was given by Gashmis, that is to bring down spirituality, Davke in Lamata. And that's why the Torah mitzvahs were given to souls, not as they stand higher than the world above in the spiritual world, but it was given dafke in the bodies, when the body and the soul are connected together. So that's the way, and that's the novelty, that's the accomplishment of Matan Torah, to bring it down the Gashmis. So and it was given into the Gufim, but the Gufim are a connection of physical and spiritual, the Neshama and the body. Also the Torah mitzvahs, Begam Torah mitzvahs, Tzorich liyos chibur inyan hagashmi shabazav ha'ruchnius. There has to be a connection between the physical matter of the mitzvah and the spiritual level of the mitzvah. Hainu, and that is she'oisehu mitzvah. There has to be the part that makes it into a mitzvah, instead of being a very physical thing, which is just a material thing, a physical thing. To take that and make it into a mitzvah, that means to connect the physical and the spiritual, to take a physical item and make it into a connection with the spiritual. So Begam Zeh, so also this, to get the Shames Begufim, to make the physical, it's also Rak Acharei Hazichruch Begolus. This is only after one goes through the purification, the refinement during exile. So the exile brings about a refinement, and then there can be that special mitzvah, the ruchnis, to make it into a mitzvah, and the special mitzvah as it goes through the zichron goes. V'lochein gam b'kiyum ha'Torah mitzvahs yesh kama yefanim, and that's why, because there's different level how much we connect the ruchnis with the gashmis, there can be various different ways in the performance of Torah mitzvahs. How much of the gashmis did you connect with the ruchnis? How low did the ruchnis come down to the gashmis? V'horoshim, so then you have the heads on top. In other words, it starts off, there's a Roshim that starts off, first of all, in other words, if there's no zichuch and there's no further connection, bringing a spirituality, you can start just doing Torah mitzvahs in rote, mitzvahs anoshim mulumoda. You just do it as a mitzvah that people have trained themselves, you just do it, but you don't have below chayis. There's no energy over there. So that would be a low level to start with. Or bichlal, you're doing it not for the purpose of doing the will of Hashem. You do it not for the sake of the mitzvah, but amanashi asuni rav, so that I will be made into a rabbi. Ki yetzibah is similar, which is shaloish lishmo. Shein zechayis. That's not really. That's mulama. There's no energy in that mitzvah. There's no life force in that mitzvah. It's just doing it for other purposes. Oy pachad elikim, or let's say he's afraid of God. So it's also not considered to be a chayis. That's not an energized, but that's a restricted, that's a squashed. So that would be the lower level. But then you have base, the second level, that you do the above because you love Hashem, and you do it with a great passion, with a great energy. But that comes when the neshama impacts the maisim, is because the neshama expands and overpowers, so that the physicality is not there, but there is that spirituality, is the love of Hashem there. There's that energy. So this can be categorized in two categories: avoda mipnei hatava, or hergel shenase tava. Either it's a service which is because nature, you got used to it. You naturally you do the mitzvahs, or hergel shenase tava, or you trained yourself, and that became your second nature, your nature. Or avoda shalpitam badas, or a service which is based on logic. That's the lower level. But v'yesh gam l'mayla min hatam badas. But there's also an avoda which is higher than tam badas. She'ena mitzias b'fnei atzmai. That is in which he is not an entity by himself. Elo sheroitza l'kayim rotzon avoda. All that he wants to do is to fulfill the wishes of the Creator. So that's a level in a person doing on the higher level, which is not something which is beneficial to the person, not his own entity, not own mitzias, but rather he's doing it for Hashem. So this is the different ways that the people can perform the mitzvahs. The pitam badas, shleha pitam, l'mayl mitam badas. V'inei, similar to these distinctions, differences, there's differences within the Torah itself. Torah kedei labdas es hamaisa. He studied Torah in order to know what to do. Shezehu davke hatachlis. So then that specifically becomes the goal. The goal becomes to know. You're learning Torah to know how to do the mitzvahs. And therefore, if that's the learning, then there is limitations. So you learn Hilchas Chag b'Chag, but you got to learn the laws of the certain holiday at that holiday, because that's limited. You're limited in yourself, because that's when you need to know them. V'davke b'arbo masnino. I think the Rebbe is referring to here that there is the level of arbo, the level of 4. 4 is a number, means specific. There's agbola. Not sure what the Rebbe, there's meaning the barbo masninun. Got to find the source of what the Rebbe exactly means here, barbo masninun. But it looks like also a limitation. You have the hilchas chag b'chag, ukiyotzibai, and davke, you need 4, arbo masninun. And then you have limud HaTorah la'atzma. Then you have the study of the Torah on its own. Asher oz ba'avoso yishge tomid. In the love of the Torah, he will constantly be involved because it's in own advantage. It's not any specific time, but all the time. Akol ponim apitam vadas. So that is at least could be apitam vadas. It's take all the time, loves the Torah, not limited to a certain time, but still logical. But then you have a higher level, l'mayla m'kol hanal lishmo, be'emes l'shem HaTorah. That's for the sake, truly for the Torah. That's beyond any reason and rationale. Oz, when you learn Torah on that level, Machaber Gamkin HaTorah de Mechochma Nafke L'Shorsha B'Kabbalah. Then he connects, and I guess that's why it's V'Kibel, B'Kabbalah, to get the Torah from the Torah that is Chochmah, from the level of Chochmah, to get it to its root and where it comes from. By day, Ma Yochel Liyazek Gamkin. How could this also be? That's showing that he's always with self-sacrifice. This needs to be all the time. Okay, these are nekudas, so just give it over a little bit to the best that we can of these points.